Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Doing great, Eric. Happy December.
Happy December. I think November was actually a bit colder up here, but as
And
we're
very wet.
yes, it's been very wet as we head into the holiday season. You're starting to see the Christmas lights go up. Things are taking shape.
Yeah, I have a date with my wife tomorrow to get a tree. So there you go.
There you go. So, over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about preparation, business plans, marketing plans, personal growth plans, how to get through all of this planning. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a departure from that. We're actually going to talk about when things go wrong, and in this case, potentially catastrophically wrong. We have as our guest Bob Newbold. Bob went through a massive health condition scare, and we will let Bob tell you all about that. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic. We're glad to have you here.
We
Well,
certainly are.
I'm thankful to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to get on and tell my story.
And so, why don't you tell our audience what happened?
Okay. Well, in a nutshell, I was at work on a Monday. It was actually March 20th of 2017, and it was just a normal Monday. Was at my desk. I remember I was getting organized for the week and just putting some things together that I wanted to do and everything. And came to be lunchtime, and sometimes I go out, sometimes I don't eat, and sometimes I bring something back to my desk. But the good news was I didn't go out that day for lunch. About 1:15 in the afternoon, I was sitting at my desk. I got up, uh, started walking across the office, got about 25 feet, and noticed my right arm was just hanging limp, and recognized that as not normal. So I remember thinking I'm gonna go back and sit down and figure out what's going on. From that point where I was back to my desk, I don't remember that walk at all. But when I got to my desk, I collapsed um, between the chair, the credenza, and the desk, and made a lot of noise, fortunately. And people I work with heard me and came running in. And I'm fortunate I work with my wife, and they called her in. And first, she thought I was having a heart attack. I was on the floor, as I said, and she said, I thought it was a heart attack, but you were breathing normally. So then it hit her, it must be a stroke. So they proceeded to call 911, and we were fortunate we have AMR right down the road here from my office in West Hartford. So they're close by. Also, the fire department in West Hartford's the first responder, and they're right down the street, and as is the police department in a different direction, but also close by. So everybody descended to my office, and they came wheeling in with the gurney and everything. And of course, we said stroke, or my wife said stroke. I couldn't talk and couldn't move my whole right side. So they have their protocol. They don't take a word on it, but making sure it's not a diabetic seizure or some other complication. But they ascertained, yes, it is a stroke, and brought me out to the ambulance. Um, that's a ride I'll never forget. Um, I was fortunate in the end that you'll hear how well I came out of this. But one thing I'll never forget is riding in the ambulance, looking up at the ceiling, not being able to move my whole right side, not being able to speak. And while they're putting an IV in my arm, um, just thinking, well, I guess I'm left-handed now, and I'm a left-handed emailer since I can't talk, and starting to make that preparation. Like, is this going to be it from now on? Not seeing any easy road to recovery, and kind of jumped ahead to the worst. The worst thing that could happen. So anyway, bottom line, we get to the hospital, and I get wheeled right into the stroke emergency unit. I say I got the easy pass right in, wheeled past a bunch of people in the emergency room and everything. And there was about 20 people standing around, nurses, doctors, all the radiologists and the anesthesiologists and everything, and they all knew because the whole time in, the paramedics on the horn with the stroke unit, so she's relaying readings and situations, and so they know exactly what's coming in when I get there. So they went to work and do what they train 24/7, 365 to do. And Hartford Hospital is the comprehensive stroke center, one of two in Connecticut. And just for anybody listening, if you have any heart or stroke related ailments, Hartford Hospital is the place to go, especially stroke. But they're able to do things there that other hospitals aren't equipped to do, and I can explain that a little bit in a few minutes. But bottom line, they started working. I was awake and listening to them speak and everything, and just kind of saying, what the heck's going to go on? What the heck's going to happen? So the first thing they do is the IV that they put in. There's a drug called TPA, and in my presentations I call it Drano. It's a heavy-duty, like a blood thinner type thing, anticoagulant, and they put that in, and that's got to be done within certain parameters. I think it has to be done within 3 to 4 hours of a stroke. They have to know exactly. They had to certify when somebody last saw me normal, which was a couple people said 5 years ago, but somebody had seen me about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and my thing all happened about 1:15, so I was well within the parameters there. But so they administered the TPA, and the next thing was what really I owe my recovery to is a procedure called a mechanical thrombectomy, and nobody's probably ever heard of that. I know I never did, never dreamed what they could do, but they insert a tube they go in your groin, go up through your heart, through your carotid artery, and up to the brain, and they took out the clot. So it's quite a thing. The tube, there's a mesh that is inside the tube. When they get to the clot, they release the mesh. The clot's kind of a jelly type of thing, I guess. I always thought it was maybe something a little firmer than that, but the clot gets in the mesh, and they're able to pull it back into the tube and take it out. So that freed up, the clot is disrupting the flow to the brain, the flow to the blood of the brain, and that opened it up. And I just recently found out that they actually went in twice, got, I don't know, part of it or whatever, but went back in. And I like to say, they're pretty amazing. I'd love to watch it done and see how it is, but they're watching screens and watching that little tube go through. And I like to say, when I got to my brain, it was easy. It was not too congested there, and wasn't much there, and they were able to just take the second right and the first left, and there the clot was. So I have a little fun, you can tell, with my presentation, but bottom line, it's just unbelievable what they can do today. And so since then, my mission has just been to be out spreading the word about stroke, kind of technology, what happened to me, and how to prevent a stroke, or at least minimize the chances, and also to recognize a stroke. I tell people you don't need to know how to fix it, you just need to know how to recognize it and call 911 as soon as possible.
Now, before this happened, did you have any symptoms? Did you have any clue that anything was wrong?
No, I have AFib, atrial fibrillation, and if there's such a thing as a mild case of AFib, I think I have it. What brings it on to me, and that's an irregular heartbeat, as they say on the commercial, not caused by a heart valve problem. All kinds of drugs for that now, for the to keep the blood from clotting. But it's it's when one side of your heart is fluttering, one side's beating, the other side's fluttering, and the blood pulls and or can pull if you're in AFib, and that's when the clots can form. So um, I was always able to tell when I went into AFib, and it was not very frequently. When I first got diagnosed, your medication for that was Coumadin, and Coumadin, you've got to have your blood checked constantly to keep the right, you know, consistency. So you're always going for blood tests and everything. So it's really a pain in the neck. Um, and the doctor said, well, as long as you tell me, and he knew that I could tell when I went into it. He says, you tell me, come in, we'll put you on Coumadin, get you going on that. So we did that for a while, and over the years, the events got fewer and fewer, and so I wasn't you know taking Coumadin very much at all. I mean, I would go maybe years or whatever without an event. So over the years, I can remember the doctor saying in physicals and things, they have some new medication now, and you don't have to get your blood checked all the time. And of course, being the typical macho man who doesn't want to take, any more medication than he has to, I said, well, we'll just keep going the way we are. So I can remember about 6 weeks before I had the stroke, I had my annual um, cardiologist appointment, and I had just had the stroke, the stress test and a nuclear stress test, and he said, everything's working good, and he said, honestly, um, your biggest health risk is a stroke, but you're at a very low instance of having one. So I came out of there with a little bounce in my step and saying, hey, I'm cool, everything's working well. So uh, so there were really no signs uh, showing of any reason why I would have the stroke. I had no symptoms. Um, uh, so that was just a crazy thing, and that's what a stroke is. Just hits you out of the blue. Um, Thinking back in reference to that AFib, behind the scenes there may have been some, little minor events or something that the clot may have formed over, months, years, whatever they take, and they said it just broke loose from inside my heart and went up to the brain. I said, how long does that take? He snapped his fingers. He says, like that, So we had just been to Boston the day before up to my grandson's baptism. So thank God it didn't happen on the road or out in the middle of nowhere on Route 84 or something like that. The Saturday before that, that day I was in the office by myself for 3 hours, and God forbid it happened then, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. So I really say my stroke was the perfect storm of things that went right. I was with people. People recognized the stroke. People called 911. I was at the hospital. My office is right at the entrance to 84, heading towards Hartford. So it's a short hop in there to the hospital. So I was there, probably within a half an hour from the onset, if it was even that long. So again, the stroke unit there, they practice all the time, and this is what they're getting ready for, somebody to come in like that. One thing I want to add to that too, I said called an ambulance. The thing you don't want to do is ever drive the person, unless it's an absolute case where you can't get an ambulance for some reason. But you think maybe you could get them there quicker. Well, the whole time I'm in the hospital, they're on the phone or radio, however they communicate, with the stroke unit, and they're doing whatever they say, taking readings and whatever, so that when you get there, they know what they've got coming. It's not like you bring somebody in and, well, I think he's having a stroke, and you got to wait for people or